Good morning, everyone, and welcome to American Scousers Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser, brought to you by Reckless Coffee Roasters. It is Wednesday, so I am back to being the greatest dad, number one over here. Mind you, this is my second cup of coffee because I woke up really early because I went to bed way too earlier than I do. So God knows which way this is gonna go over here. Gordo is with us, close number two. What's happening?
Ooh,
Oh, no sounds.
no sound good.
Wally figures the sound out over here.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, there you go. There you
Yeah.
are.
I didn't get it in the hole all the way. It's a good start to the morning.
Yeah, that is a very gorgeous start right there. Yes. And John, after being away, taking care of business, is back in action. What's happening?
Hey guys, nice to be back. No Sir Z greeting. I'm surprised. No greeting at all.
No greeting at all. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay, so a bunch of stuff to get to in some ways, but it's going to revolve obviously mostly around. I'm always here. What?
I think he got next week confused.
Yeah, he put
with
it in
this
his
week.
Yes.
calendar.
Next week
wrong.
will not be here. Actually, yes. Starting, let's get the housekeeping out of the way. But after today, we will not have the morning show until the 8th, with the exception of Wednesday. You gentlemen are going to be here. But with scheduling and everything like that, no other morning show next week or this Friday. Heading over to North Carolina, our annual Outer Banks getaway with a bunch of people, dogs, kids, and all that kind of stuff. But it should be a good time. Ryan says I can't keep up. I can't keep up with my own schedule, bro. So I don't blame you for not keeping up. I have to constantly ask the wifey what's happening and stuff like that. So with like doctor's appointments thrown in there and stupid stuff like that too, and it's just like so much scheduling. It reminds me of like the old days where we had like the kids' games and dances and stuff like that. Alan is with us as well. Good morning, Alan. Okay, a lot of it is going to revolve around obviously Copa America and Euros and all that kind of stuff. How is it going so far? How are you liking the tournament, Gordo?
That's a good question, because it's entertaining in the ways I didn't think it'd be entertaining, and it's completely frustrating in all the ways I thought it would be entertaining. Right? Like.
Okay, so let's start with the first one. How is it entertaining that you didn't expect it to be?
Like some of the teams I didn't expect to be very good gave a lot of bigger teams some trouble. Like, for instance, Albania, they go out with only 1 point, but they scored the earliest goal of the tournament. They scored really early in their second game as well. And then you've got the likes of what should have been such an easy group for England, and it seemed like Serbia gave them trouble. Like Poland and the last day giving France some trouble after basically doing nothing for the first two games of the tournament. So it's, I guess there's some parity there, which is good. But, because that's always been my biggest thing is the tournament has gotten so big that you allow teams, and sorry, Matoush, but you allow teams that shouldn't be there to be in the tournament for the group stages,
At least it went towards Matoush. I thought it was going to come at me, but he went after Matoush.
Because Turkey's making it to the next round.
Well, hopefully, let's not count the chicken yet, because we don't know what's going to happen today. They play at 2:00 today, unless they get smashed. They're in the next round. I think as long as they don't lose by 3 or something like that, they'll back their way into the next round is how it's looking right now. So that parity, is that kind of like a trend, you guys think? Like, is it getting less and less, the gap between the big boys, the regular big boys compared to the other ones? Mainly, I don't know if it's because all these players are, even like you look at like Albania, you look at, I don't know, Czechia, heck, you look at Turkey, you look at most of these teams that are normally the underdogs. Not a lot of them play in their countries. At most, half the squad plays in their countries. Everybody else is playing in these other leagues, John. Is that kind of closing the gap a little bit?
Yeah, and I feel like I always had a feeling where even before, now kind of the parity is really showing, but even before, I felt like with international football, there's always the best chance for an upset every given time because these players don't necessarily spend the most time together. And when they do, they're going through really rushed training camps. So in terms of the cohesion, it's not as they don't gel as well. So you have more results like England screwing around or France kind of letting go of the rope against Poland, or Netherlands, the Dutch team letting go at the last minute. So that's the beauty of it, I feel. And the more it becomes like this, the better it is for us fans. But admittedly, Tim, I've just been tuning in here and there, like with one eye open, one eye closed to the tournament, because when it's a break from football, it's a break from football for me, because like throughout the season, putting in all that emotion, and it doesn't help that I have really no stake in it, right? Because obviously I'm not European, right? I don't really have a team in there, but and I'm not as I kind of feel like I need like a month or two break emotionally before getting back into it at August again. Like, because obviously if I'm going to be partial to a team, I want the Dutch to win, but I know they don't have a good enough squad to go all the way. So I don't know if I can take, seeing Big Birch there crying in the corner with the Dutch team after they screwed up yesterday and stuff like that. Like, I already been through that throughout the season, and I can't take that.
But isn't it better that you're not emotionally connected, so you can just enjoy the game and not,
Yeah, but then I'm connected to these players. So I caught myself yesterday getting pissed off at how they're treating Trent. I'm like, it's too early in the year for this. Like, let's save this for August, man. Let's save this for August. I'll just tune in here and there, and maybe just to check how things are going, so I got something, valid to say in the show, right? So I don't show up knowing nothing, right? If that makes sense.
Hey, there's Thursday. You're late, sir. But yes, good morning. And Ryan says I'm total half-ass in this as well. I don't know, maybe because the fact that I work from home, so I get to watch every game. Well, except now when there's like simultaneous, but I was literally like just putting it on the other monitor, and I was kind of watching it as I worked and stuff. But overall, I don't know. It's kind of like the appeal to me. I think we were talking about this with Matush. It's almost like it's totally fine when your country is not in it in some ways, because then you're just kind of watching for the sports and the overall drama of it, the overall sport of it and stuff. Like when you watch the Euros, Gordo, do you have a horse in the race?
Yeah, I would say just like growing up and how hardcore my dad is for Scotland, like that. Unfortunately, that's usually the team that I'm like backing behind. I like England to do well, of course, but Scotland's usually my go-to team, which is sad.
Okay, so you did have a horse in the race. I thought maybe you
did.
And you were watching more of like a neutral and stuff like that. I just feel like, okay, if you watch every game, I consider that
that's still kind
of your ass. And
see, Ryan treats it as bonus football. In our house, like I call the summer tournaments bonus football. Like when I first started dating my now wife, she was like, "I thought the season was over," and I'm like,
"It's like overtime."
Yeah. But you're watching games every day, which you didn't do during the season. Like there was some breaks, and now you're not breaking at all. Like this is the break, and you're watching games every day. She's like, who's Albania? Where even is that on a map? And it's like, yeah, but this is important, okay? Because if Albania wins, So trying to explain that to her, so we just call it bonus.
Worse. Like football. It's like you're in a camp for like a month. It's like, no, this is hardcore. There's like 2 more games tomorrow. And stuff. I don't know. I've always even really growing up, Turkey never qualified for these things, or rarely qualified. So you always probably watched more of it as a neutral, and I always enjoy him because I just feel like this whole the nations thing for one, but even that kind of like over time, I think that has kind of like that going down the drain for me. But now the funny thing is Turkey is qualifying more, so you kind of like see that aspect of it, which it's like whatever. There's so much drama in national teams. I feel like that it's like sometimes makes it less enjoyable overall than it used to, at least for me. But Yeah, the season is never over. I'm sure she found out the hard way, but the season is really never over in some
No.
ways. I guess this is better than I kind of like these tournaments a bit more, John, because we're talking the tournaments, for example, instead of just. I mean, everybody in this channel knows I hate this freaking transfer rumor, transfer market crap. So at least we're talking about games and actual football as opposed to just rumors.
Absolutely. Like, listen, I said what I said, but then at the end of the day, it's still. I said what I said, but it's still, at the end of the day, we're still kind of watching our guys, perform and kind of gauging them towards a new regime, right? And obviously, I wasn't around last Wednesday when Arne, did I pronounce his name right?
Nope, that is incorrect.
How do
That's
pronounce
strike one? It's Arna.
Arna.
Yeah,
All right,
Arna.
Arna. All right. When Arna's
Roll the
first
R,
interview-
baby. Gotta roll the
Yeah.
R.
Yeah, when Arna's first interview came out, like we were kind of given an insight as to how he approaches certain things, right? Obviously, it's very general. It's a very general interview, but seeing, for example, I sent that headline with Cody Gakpo, how he's performing well, for in this tournament. It's a great talking point for us here, content-wise, and for us as Liverpool fans to go through and examine in detail, rather than stupid-ass transfer rumors, right? All day long, I'll take that, right?
And I think and it's a bit more enjoyable watching. Yeah,
Cersei, the less, the less said, the better.
let's
Yeah.
go
Look, he's going to be pronounced by Scousers, so it's going to be Arnie for sure. Like you really think that they're going to go Arna? They're just going to call him Arnie.
Since that particular incident, I've just called him by his first name. So,
And now that he came out and made his first name more calculated, they just be like the coach, the gaffer.
yeah,
Just keep going around like that,
Right.
and just refer to him in like titles. I don't know. I think he'll eventually give up on that. I know, like when I first, I mean, the funny thing is, I went to like an American high school back home, and half our teachers were American or English and stuff like that, because most of the classes were in English, like math, science, and stuff like that. And so I had the challenge of the name even then. So I actually some of the teachers would call me Tim back then, and then came over here. After a while, you just give up, dude. Like, you correct once, you correct twice. You know what? Whatever, it's fucking close enough. And then you just kind of keep moving on. And
That's what my dad says
you
too.
know what? Apparently, you cannot freaking pronounce anything. Just stick with Tim. Can you handle that? And then let's just go with that kind of a thing. But so he will learn. Yes, I watched a couple of Scots start butchering his name. You know what? Just say Arnie. If it's not going to be easy for everybody else, let's go with that kind of an ordeal. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. Overall player performances that we're going with over here. Speaking of transfer rumors and everything, Gordo, we kind of talked about this on the Monday night podcast too. I think this is one of the biggest takeaways I'm taking from this tournament so far. Because let's face it, Szoboszlai and Robertson and stuff did not really light the world on fire, and actually, if anything, made you a bit more concerned. But one thing I do really like seeing is how good Gakpo is on the left wing, which brings more questions than answers looking into next season.
Does it though? Because I think
it doesn't for me.
with Arnie being Dutch, I think it bodes well for Gakpo, right? Because they can speak the same language. He's to me it seems more buddy, like when Arteta brought Raya in, and you knew that Ramsdale was done and he wasn't going to get another minute at Arsenal because they could speak the same language together. It's just one of those, I don't know. It feels more secure for me for Gakpo than it does for Diaz at the moment over there on the left. And it's partially due to current form. And honestly, I know Kazi was talking Memphis Depay up in the group chat and Discord, but he's not had a good tournament in my opinion.
I don't think so either. I was shocked when you said that because I thought
it could have been, it's Kazi, so it could have been winding everybody up,
And that's sneak out the back door, yeah.
But I feel like if Memphis had a better, or having, I don't even know. He's currently not having a good one, but if he was currently having a good one, sorry, it's too early. I think Gakpo would be doing much better.
We're disguising ourselves as a Reckless Friday broadcast. Like
He said "have" or "had" in like 8 different tenses, and some that did not even exist.
I wasn't sure which timeline I was in anymore. I was in the metaverse. But no, I feel like he's flourished in spite of having the guy that's supposed to be delivering him most of the chances having a bad game or having a bad tournament.
Oh, here we go. Does Diaz slot into the right if Salah leaves?
This is gonna get old really fast. Let me just say that.
It's a lot more this year. More importantly, I mean, I think, if Mo leaves, I think that's a conversation. But John, does it make it a conversation of us being willing to part ways with Diaz a bit easier, perhaps?
Yes, that's what I'm kind of leaning towards in terms of Gakpo's form towards the end of last season. Granted, we didn't finish the season well, but he was one of those bright spots that kind of made us have something to look forward to, right? Because, he's actually playing his natural position. Who would have thought his performances would have actually gone, towards the upside? And listen, with Diaz, and I kind of wrote about this, shameless plug, right? I wrote about this on the website that Diaz's numbers last year didn't exactly light the world on fire. I think 13 goals, 5 assists, and over 51 appearances. Like, let's be real, guys. The benchmark was always Mane, and that's not even 30% of prime Mane, right? And in Klopp's system, when we won things, Mane was scoring 20 or almost 20 in the league alone, and Diaz scored 13 in all comps. So call me a statist or whatever, basing everything solely on numbers. I watched every Liverpool game, so I know Diaz is, unfortunately, like, he has his moments, but he's not good enough. So maybe we do need a shift in terms of who we're going to be playing there. And Gakpo being 25, Diaz being 27, turning 28, he still has those 2 years before his prime to improve himself as a player. So it's a no-brainer for me. Like, when you ask Gordo, like, it's going to be a conversation. It's not really a conversation, Tim, because I feel like Gakpo has that left wing spot nailed on next year.
Here's the article he's referring to, by the way. Left wing things, the shameless plug. That's a good plug. Good thing you brought that up. Because I don't know. See, I don't know if I'm sold on that. Mainly because of the point that I think Sir Z was making. Because you would think, I mean, what is Diaz, like mid-20s, right?
27, 28.
27. So he's approaching prime. Well, the old prime, I think the prime has changed over the years, but normally what you would consider prime. And wouldn't it be kind of like a better option in some ways to keep him and slide him to the right? We kind of talked about this a bit on Monday too. We keep talking about center back, defensive midfield. The center back, we need a number 6, which I'm going to get to. Ando says we need a number 6 too. But is it... You look at this front four, there's a lot of question marks that, maybe the other stuff takes priority, Gordo, and we don't look at it. But Jota is hurt again in the Portuguese flopping drill at practice. And then, so he can't be relied on. You don't know what's going to happen with Mo. Nunez loves to take shots, so we're going to get to that and make one of 11, and he's totally cool with that. So should we actually not even consider like parting with Diaz just because of the situation we're in? Because that means you're gonna have to bring in 1 or 2 new bodies.
It's the evil we know versus the evil we don't know, right? And there is something more comforting of like knowing exactly what I'm going to get from Diaz, because his numbers aren't great, and I agree with John there, but like there's so many people that back Nunez because of effort and then shit on Diaz at the same time. And it's like,
yes, that's fair. Yeah.
I felt like Diaz provided more dangerous, circumstances than Nunez did for the entire year. And also, carried that line. There was a point in time when I think we played him every minute of like 6 or 7 games in a row. And somehow, even in the 89th minute of the 5th game, he was still making that lung-busting run. And he's not afraid to go at people, which I love that. That's one of my favorite things in a player, because I don't think we see that so much anymore. I think the game is kind of evolved where there's so much talent on the wings that you can distribute the ball across field, and you're looking for lines through the middle. And I kind of grew up in an era like when I was learning how to play the game of the wingers being the guys that went directly at players and created chances. And he reminds me of like that old bastion. So I like Diaz. Of course, I would like to see him score more and assist more, because sometimes I feel like those situations get him into cul-de-sacs and he just loses the ball.
Yeah.
But there's just one little tweak that he could do and change his game completely, because I think he has all the hallmarks of a good winger.
Excuse me.
It's just never going to be at Mane's level at this point.
And I think it really depends on the kind of winger we want too. But I mean, that's the thing. Since you made the case, I'll go at you, John, for the Diaz thing. I think I agree slightly with Gordo, because there were so many games where we said anything that's being created or happening is coming from Diaz's side, or what Diaz is doing. I mean, you could say that's partially because there's so much attention being paid to Mo, like to stop Mo and stuff like that. But at the same time, I think, and then people complain that he loses the ball and stuff. But in his defense, he is the only one really willing to take on players with the ball. So obviously, you're not going to get past them every time. And it just felt like it reminded me of like some of the Coutinho era times where we gave the ball to him and we were like, okay, let's see what you can do, make something happen. And obviously, it's going to look either great or it's going to look, you just go into three guys. What are you doing over there? You lose the ball. So have we relied on him to create too much and then kind of blamed him when he lost the ball, whereas he was the only one taking the ball?
Yeah, I get where that's coming from, but I'm also kind of looking at it as a group, right? As our attacking unit as a group. So let's say there are no additions next year, right? So it seems that we're gonna be sticking, Gakpo towards the left. So we got Darwin Nunez leading the line. We're gonna ride Nunez. I don't think Diaz and Nunez playing together is a good thing, because there's just too much shit going on. There's just too much randomness going on where it becomes detrimental to the attacking play. And I said a month ago in the show that I would sell Nunez if we were given the right fee. So, and the same applies to Diaz. Like, I feel like you can only keep one of those in and play one of those guys at any given time, because I feel like Arne has more structure.
Get in there.
All right. That's good. I feel like he has more structure in terms of his style of play compared to Klopp, and he would prioritize composure over randomness. And I wouldn't say desire, because everyone loves desire, but you guys get where I'm coming from. Where he likes that kind of player. I feel like that would think more than do, and having two doers more than thinkers, like having a Nunez and a Diaz on the field at the same time, is a big no-no, which is why I put Gakpo over him. And it looks like we're going to be riding Nunez over the next year. So, yeah. And there's also this part of me where I mentioned Diaz's age, 27 turning 28. I feel like this is him. I feel like this is the finished product. I feel like if there is any improvement, it's going to be supremely minimal. So I might as well put my chips in towards a Gakpo who has probably 2-3 years left in his developmental, process, to maybe turn him into that ideal winger in Arne's system, if that makes sense.
I mean, yeah, I get that case. I just don't think he is that far off when you look at Diaz. And I think I do agree with the point of Nunez and Diaz, because Nunez does like going to the left a lot more. Diaz is more of a winger. He does like the touchline, and he does like running down that side. And actually, he gets in trouble kind of like when he tries to cut in the middle, because he just gets lost and just takes the ball all the way to Mo, basically just like passing everybody on his way, and goes over there to the right hand side. But Ryan thinks Jota is too. Is he though? See, that's the thing. I don't think. I mean, sellable in terms of there will be people who want him.
Mm-hmm.
I do agree to that. But I mean, anybody is sellable if you mark down the
Right.
prices and put like a Prime Day sale on it and make it like 70% off suggested retail price. And I think that's what the deal is right now with probably Jota because of his injury history. I don't know if anybody's really rolling the dice. I think like Bickler was talking about this, you know, like you gotta, if you're gonna sell Jota, you gotta sell him where he has a run, he comes in, scores. We're like, holy cow, man, this guy can finish. And then in January, you're like, available now for like 60 million or something like that, and you move him because otherwise he's gonna have these muscle injuries and stuff like that. And then Nunez, which Sorzi says he would not sell Nunez because he scores 25 next season as long as he just needs 15 chances per game. Well, the joke is on you because he says, I'm going to make 5 or 10 mistakes, but I'm going to try 11 times.
I love how he just jumped from 5 to 10. He like doubled
sorry.
it right away. Like,
This is just like, I know I'm shit. Like, you know, it's like,
See,
yeah,
here's my thing. You can take this both ways. If it was, you're a basketball, so we start with, you're a basketball guy, so we'll start with you, John. It's like a shooting guard, a shooter's mentality. You know, you're just going to keep taking those shots. They eventually go in. So you can kind of take that as confidence, but I can't do that now when 2 months ago you were so offended with your social media comments.
No.
So obviously you have a thicker skin than, make up your mind. You either don't care or you have a thick skin and you do care. That's I guess where I'm kind of confused.
And I can't, and if we're going by the basketball reference, I can't give him the green light because guys like Steph Curry and
shooting like
right, guys like Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, they got the green light because, like what Kazi said, there's credit in the bank. You know, these guys can shoot the freaking lights out. So why would I give Nunez the green light when he can barely get past 10 goals in the league a season? No, it doesn't make sense. And Serzi, all due respect, I think he scores 25. We said this last year. Multiple points last year. We said this multiple points the season before. Like, and I was on the Nunez trail. Like, I was on the Nunez train with Anan when I was still going in the Friday show. I was backing him heavily. But there were so many false dawns. Ryan, please stop. Just Ryan, come on. Please stop. Like, first of all, no one ever sees defense now. So
yeah,
so
if you look at NBA, nobody's defending anymore. It's like every game is an all-star game.
Right. So Steph and Klay might not have seen defense, but then their opponents don't see defense too. So it's a fair game, right? But anyway, I digress. Yeah, how many times, like, and Gordon can attest to this. How many times last year after he scored the brace at Newcastle, like, oh, this is the time where he's gonna start scoring again. When he scored that winner against Forest, right? This is when he's gonna start. Like, it's so many false dawns. It's frustrating, and that's kind of what teetered me towards the edge, where it's borderline unfair that I want to sell him right now because obviously it's a new manager and you'd want to see him kind of see how he is in slot system. But then I don't know, man. Like, if we're thinking big picture again, like I said, we need a killer. We need someone who can be given just half a chance and bury it, no questions asked. And I don't think that's Darwin Nunez. I'm sorry.
I don't know, man. I'm so torn on this kid that like I say, Gordo, I kind of like what he says there because I know what he's trying to say. And, you know, we're going to talk about Endo too. Like, sometimes the answer is going kind of taken out of context. I don't think he's like, hey, wait, I got something to say. I'm going to screw about 5 or 10 times and I'm going to make it. I don't think that's the case. You know, somebody is like probably said, hey, you know, all these misses, do they get in your head or something like that? And he's like, no, I'm going to miss.
Sorry, Tim. Before you go ahead, Ryan, who hurt you, man? Like, I'm just curious. Like, you got a team that got screwed over? I'm just curious, man.
NBA is garbage at this point. Yes. Wait, that one is relevant again. But yeah, I mean, I think that's like the biggest deal is I think it's kind of taken out of context. You got to kind of like the confidence in betting on yourself. I kind of can't do that as much as I would because, like, you know, 2 months ago, he deleted all his like social media and stuff like that. If he did this 2 months ago when people were giving him shit, I would have probably had more respect to the statement than I do now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I would like the statement too if we were like going into his second season and not his third, right? Like, I think that's a big tell. It's like, all right, we saw the first season, give him some time. You know, he's a young kid moving to a different country, doesn't speak the language. that's a statement that I'd like him to see going into the second. But knowing that he had another season in the system, he produced the same thing, and now he's telling me this, like, I don't want to see you take 11 chances. I don't want to see you take. And much to what John said about Steph Curry and Klay Thompson is like Mo. A lot of people gave Mo a lot of crap this year. Like, he didn't have a great year in terms of his like production rates. I mean, like, there's so many players in the league that would kill for a bad Mo Salah season.
Right.
So it's still good numbers, but I don't care when Mo takes a chance he probably has no chance at, because I've seen him make those, and I've in big games and big moments where it doesn't look like there's any chance he's going to get a sniff at goal, and he hits the top corner and scores a worldie. And that's, Nunes does not have that. And he could move on and be a big player somewhere else. And I know people will be like, look, if we just held on to him, and like, there's a point when you've surpassed what you can get out of him. And, look at Chelsea and Salah. Like, Salah was never going to work at Chelsea, no matter how long he stayed there. And it took him to go somewhere else to become a world-class player. It doesn't mean that he would have been world-class at Chelsea. It just means like he needed to move to be that person. Mm-hmm. And I like Nunes because I like the effort, but I don't want to see it at 6:30 on a Saturday morning. I don't want to.
See, I don't know, man. I kind of take this as, when he says, I'm going to make 5 or 10 mistakes, but I'm going to try 11 times. I kind of take that for the most part as a positive, that's because the key word is try. Like, I'm not going to quit and put my head down. I'm going to keep going at it. So I do respect that. And I know what Gordo is saying in terms of, like, for example, Mo at Chelsea is a good example, maybe. But does the manager change? I think, to me, if the manager didn't change and we were kind of like going with the same system and everything else for the most part, because we know there's not going to be huge radical changes if Klopp keeps going on. There might be modifications with the squad, but not necessarily the system for the most part. But with Arna coming in, changing things around, I almost feel like this is a fresh start. More of the second season was a fresh start. Maybe I'm just being optimistic, but
go figure.
Yeah, go figure, right? Exactly. I told you it was the second coffee. That's probably why. But anything can happen today. But so I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. But I feel like, with a new manager, new system, that is a better fresh start for him than the second season was. So I still think, based on his age, physical ability, and some of the freaking goals that he scores, like the shots, it's like tells me there's something still in there. It's just a matter of giving it a bit more time.
What worries me, Tim, is if we're looking at Jurgen Klopp's style, it's arguably the best in Europe in creating chances. So what worries me is Arna isn't as hell-bent on the attacking side of things. It's always the detriment. We always talk about it with Klopp's system, where we leave ourselves too exposed at times, which is because he tries to double down too much on the offensive side of things, which is great, which has worked great for us, which has worked great for our attacking players. The numbers that Mane, Salah, Jota, Firmino have put over the years have been really good, and it's a reflection of his system. And what worries me, and obviously this might be me trying to simplify it a little bit, if Darwin Núñez is struggling mightily to score 15 goals in the league a season in a system that's designed to create so much chances, like, we're talking about a systemic change, there is no guarantee that Arna is going to be as attacking as Klopp. I'd say Klopp is arguably one of the most attacking managers in world football, and it's not a 1-1. So that worries me. There's going to be more instances with Darwin having to score on that one big chance or on those two big chances, which, as much as I want to have faith in him, the sample size isn't as good, right?
Yeah, I mean, I get that point in terms of if you're going to get less chances and stuff like that, but... And Alan says Núñez has scored 9 goals in his last 6 international games. But then again, I watched part of this last game, and it was kind of like a vintage Núñez thing. A couple that he should easily finish, don't go in. But then I actually turned that game off. I didn't have the patience for the second
was
half. And then the
goal
goal he scores is like
Yeah.
a really difficult shot, and he makes that goal, though. And those are the ones that I'm like, he knows how to hit a ball. He
Yeah.
knows where to be. He knows how to get in those situations. It's just a matter of going back. I don't want to go back to the basketball analogy and get Ryan and John going over here, but like seeing the ball go in a couple of times where the confidence just keeps going, and then you just, I mean, it's good to be cranking those shots and not taking shots. Like Mo stopped taking those shots. And how many times did we say that Mo is taking 1 or 2 extra touches because he lost some of that groove? In some ways, isn't this better for him to just keep cranking it? And it is what it is. Whatever happens, happens.
It is, unless you only get the one chance, right? That you need to put away the one that you can't understand why the players
like sound like he's Mourinho or something.
No.
Even
under Klopp, there was some games where we only had 1 or 2 opportunities, and you have to put them away. And when there's a player there that can hit, and I said it in the Discord, the goal that Nunez scores for Uruguay was a goal that probably only 20 players on the planet could have not only hit it correctly, but put it in the back of the net.
Yeah.
But he missed 3 that, 9-year-olds should be putting, in the same, not, not in the Uruguay international game.
Solid 9-year-old.
From the position he's in against other 9-year-olds, they should be putting that ball in the back of the net. And if you were supposed to be, because the difference, and I've had this discussion with a couple of my friends too, is like, why do you like Gakpo so much more than Nunez when like Gakpo's not that flashy? He's not gonna, he's not scoring as many goals. I don't expect the Gakpo type player to score that. Nunez is coming in to be that guy, to put 4 or 5 of the really easy ones in the back of the net, because you might only get 1 sniff at goal, and if it's inside the 6-yard box and an easy tap and header with only the goalie to beat, and you head it directly to the goalie, which Nunez did for Uruguay, that's one of the most frustrating things ever, because you'll go back and point those out. Yeah. And yes, like he saves us against Newcastle. Yes, he scores the game winner against Forest, but you can pick on 2 hands the amount of goals that he could have scored that would have made a lot of other games more comfortable. Like even in that Uruguay game, it wasn't a comfortable game. The scoreline is a little, it doesn't tell you the full picture of that game. And it was very tight and tense. And Nunez gets those, he misses those. And you're sitting there like, that the other team stays in the game longer because Nunez misses those easy chances when he could have put the game to bed.
Yeah, I know that's a good point. I mean, that's, maybe you don't need those last second goals if you were kind of more critical early on. And Gakpo is a more complete player. I do agree with that. But, we talked about this before. They're like how they have become professional players is a totally different route. And I think especially for South American players, especially for a guy like Nunez, it is going to take a bit more time to get molded as opposed to a guy like Gakpo, who's coming up the system in a proper youth system and stuff like that, actually getting the training of the game, like tactically and stuff like that, as opposed to just throw the ball out there and start playing. And then obviously with his physical ability, he probably like dominated and moved up the ranks and stuff like that. I just hope that, with the new mindset, somebody can pound into his head that, hey, you're faster than everybody on here. So don't be offside. You don't have to be a foot ahead. You're faster than everybody. So just, time your runs and stuff like that. I think it's a lot easier for me to be optimistic now because we're like a month removed from the season, and I have not been yelling at the screen. I'm like, stay on side. So maybe it's a bit easier. I just feel like it is still too early. And maybe I would not say that if we didn't have a new manager, but with the new manager, slightly different system, maybe a number 10 that plays close to him, like an attacking midfielder. I shouldn't say number 10 because it's going to get John going, but like attacking midfielder that can kind of like play off of him, play with him and stuff like that. I think there are ways to utilize him. And yes, maybe I'm afraid, like Gordo is saying, he's going to go somewhere and just going to be like this ridiculous player. And I'm going to be like, God damn it. Should I wait another 6 months or something? And you're not going to get the value. So I think John is right. I don't think we're selling him anyway, just because the value is not there right now. We're not going to take that big of a loss when there's the potential to be really good as well. So there is a reward for the risk.
Well, before we move on to our next topic, how long are you guys giving him? Just this season?
I'm giving him this season with this new system. But you know what's going to happen next summer? We're going to be like, we just need a second season in this new system.
Yeah, I'm probably
I'm giving him one more season. Gordo looks like he's already checked out of him, but
Yeah. I lost my patience around February. I was like, I guess it was maybe a little unfair to him in the beginning of the season, but like I really lost my patience in February, and I was like, I don't want to see him anymore.
I always felt it was too early to bring him in as a starter. I still thought, Gakpo as the starter, Nunez coming off the bench was like the best way to go. But yeah, I mean, there's a reason why the Dutch and the Portuguese, those are, I think, two, like they have the best youth systems, especially in Portugal. I think like some of the bigger clubs have good youth systems. I think like in Netherlands, kind of like across the board. And that's why when people loan players, they're very tempted to loan them out to the Dutch league and stuff like that, just because they do such a good job of development, like player development and stuff like that. But let's talk a little bit about this over here. So Endo says, and again, Gordo, I feel like this is an answer to a question and not necessarily, he didn't come out and be like, man, we need a number 6, something like that. But because he says something like, it's almost, I get the sense that somebody asked him, they're looking at number 6s. Everybody says they need a number 6. What do you think? And he gives an honest answer. How do you take his overall statement of, what does he say? Like he pretty much says,
yeah, I'm old.
Yeah, maybe we do need a number 6.
I can't play, 60 games a season. We definitely need somebody to do it. It's a very Japanese answer, right? It's like, it's honest. It's straightforward. It's a lot of players I think in this position will be like, I'm going to fight. They can do whatever they want. It's going to be my position. I'm going to fight for it. And I think this is, I don't know, it was refreshing to me. I know a lot of people are like, are you kidding me? Like this looks like you're admitting defeat. You don't belong in this club. But to me, it's like, he's not an idiot. He's an ultra professional. It seems akin to something maybe Milner would say, even of like, I love playing for this team and I will cherish every minute that I get playing for them, but I am not the answer to the number 6 role for this team moving forward. And if they want to be successful, they should find somebody, and I'll support them and I'll play my role. And like, I love players like that. It's very blue collar. I appreciated it.
I did too. I mean, John, he flat out says, I don't care about those reports. So he was asked about those reports, since this quote starts with that. I also think it would be better to get a number 6 midfielder. And, that's, he's not going to be like, no, they don't need it. I don't think it's very Japanese. Maybe if it was Portuguese, he would say, nope, they don't need a number 6. They got me, baby, or something like that. But, it's very honest of him. He even mentions, considering my age, I think it might be okay for me to get the number 6 and stuff like that. And I think it feels like he's just being honest that, this team does need a number 6. I think he probably knows that McAllister is not naturally a number 6 as well.
Yeah, and I don't know why people are getting on his ass, for it, because we saw what happened towards the end of last season. Like, I'm all for macho and bravado when it's needed, but then when you have a clear-ass sample size, seeing our title challenge derail like it did last season because our players looked gassed, then maybe one of our players asking for more depth isn't exactly a bad thing, because I would bet money that at that same point a few months ago, you were one of those people going like, oh, Endo looks gassed. We need someone to replace him. Yeah. So, just common sense. And listen, the fact that he always seemed like, even before he came in, he seemed like a hyper-professional, super coachable player, and it's great to see that he's living up to that reputation. That being said, he's right. So, listen, like, if we can praise him all we want, but if the club doesn't do anything to try and, shore up that position of semi-weakness, I say semi because when Endo has some rest and is energized, he is actually decent at the role. Even like I said a few months ago when we played Arsenal at Anfield, he did not look out of place next to freaking Declan Rice. He did not. He arguably looked better at times. And when we played Manchester City, he kept De Bruyne under a leash. So Endo that's fully fit, that's motivated and full of energy is still ideal. The only challenge is keeping him full of energy, right? So Liverpool, it's your move, right? Ball's in your court.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, this is exactly my thing. I see he's
Yeah.
Milner is the Japanese Colin Miller. I think that's his role. That should be
Yeah.
his role. He should be coming in the 60th, 70th minute to kind of like close up everything and, put the game away, get a yellow or a harsh tackle if he need be, and kind of like take care of things that way, as opposed to like starting, especially when we're trying to break down a defense and stuff like that. So I think it's very, yeah, we do need a number 6. I think it's one of the worst kept secrets around. I don't think you can put your eggs on the Bajcetic baskets because you don't know how he's going to come back from the injury. So you do need a number 6, and you can get somebody maybe who can kind of like play multiple positions, but is mainly a number 6. Basically, the reverse of McAllister, who's probably more of a number 8, but can play number 6. You just get number 6 that can also play number 8. So if maybe you can play Mata with Endo and Bajcetic and stuff like that at the same time, but his main role being the number 6. So I thought they were definitely a good concept there. So this news, I don't know how good this news is. So that's a double now, saying my microphone is all jacked up. Well, I'll pass it to you then, Gordo. The fact of that the Danish national team got fined from like banners and stuff like that. I guess like the third team. You said the headline, so I'll let you take over while I try to figure out my microphone over here.
So I don't know the Foden one. I'd have to look that up. I don't know where Susie says that, but it's
Jersey. So let's.
There's one here from Henry Winter, from journalist. It doesn't say where, but he's temporarily left the England camp and returned to the UK for a pressing family matter.
Well, I hope his family's okay, but I don't think he'll be missed. Like a pretty depressing. It's a pretty depressing tournament so far. So it's probably the blessing in disguise for him and for England for maybe to get some more options off the bench. It just didn't work out for him. In terms of the Danish national team, I just thought it was funny because the FA are trying to find the fans so that they can pay the fine, which I love because I think the three of us have talked about this before, where like the FA will fine the clubs, and it's really just a couple of bad actors, and they're trying to make the fans not do it because their club gets fined. However, like it's pocket change for the club, and the person that does it gets no actual punishment. So it's like there's not really a deterrent there. But if the Danish FA can find the people that did it and make them pay, that's a big statement, and I'd like to see that. I know it's harsh because it's like $75,000, and like even if it was 7,000, I think I'd be screwed. So.
So do you guys know what the banner was, or the banners?
It was just anti-UEFA.
Are they all the same? Because it said like the third time this has happened, a nation has gotten fined and stuff. Okay,
I'm not.
Like how UEFA is like cracking down on. It's like a dictatorship.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Honestly, though, like fan behavior. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I haven't been like paying. Is this like the worst we've seen in a while, John? Like the amount of like cups and crap being thrown out in an international tournament. I mean, you see a lot of this stuff. Like I'm from Turkey. Trust me, you see this stuff every week. But in an international tournament, I don't think I've ever seen so much stuff being thrown onto the pitch, and not to mention, like they keep playing despite cups being thrown and stuff. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I mean, I'm asking the youngest guy over here, but is it just me that this tournament has been worse than the other ones, John?
Well, like I said, I haven't really tuned in as much. So, listen, with the whole Danish thing, like, okay, sure, like they're trying to find, and I feel like it's more of an accountability kind of thing between the people who. So I haven't seen the banner. Like what? And Alan is asking a great question here because I'm part of the show, but I don't even know the banner that's being talked about.
It doesn't
okay,
say in
so-
the article. Like
Yeah.
in the
Well,
article,
because
it does not state.
it just says fuck UEFA.
It's
was
like,
the
you know,
one that I'm seeing.
The thing is, I
it's
agree
the
though.
point.
The thing is, I agree though, because the problem is obviously it became detrimental to the nation. So I don't know. I'm a bit mixed in terms of the whole let's find these guys who did it kind of deal. But then it also makes sense where I feel like they have the right to express themselves because UEFA is, first of all, right. They're not wrong, but the problem is it became detrimental to the Danish FA, which in 75 how much 75,000 pounds isn't exactly pocket change. So it's kind of like it's like a double-edged sword here, where I'm all for people expressing their beliefs and all that, but then it cost the Danish FA. So what now? I'm at an impasse at this, obviously. Honestly. Yeah.
It seems so minimal, right? It
Right,
seems
exactly.
like Nunes deleting all his Instagram posts.
Yeah.
It's like, no, they did Farkas. It's like, I'm sure there's people that watch this show and say fuck Gordon whenever I say something weird. It's like you gotta, if you're out there, if you can't take that, right, then like I don't know, stay home. It just seems so minimal to me.
I just feel like the band they went and hammered on that, whereas all this other stuff is happening, and I love the double standard. Don't get me started on commentary because I'll go for hours, but I love the double standard of depends on which fans are throwing the stuff is how it's viewed.
Mhm.
Is if Turkey fans did that, it would be pretty savage, and like they shouldn't be doing this and stuff like that, and when like I don't know when the Scottish fans did it, it was like they're really into the game. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, like they don't have to. I mean, I don't like
Just
any
the
fans
lads.
doing it. Yeah, right. It's like, oh, they're so
The lads.
passionate. What?
Yeah.
Like,
The lads on the down or the Portuguese though, and it's like oh goddamn racist,
yeah, it's
like,
just I like how the funniest thing was yesterday watching the commentary for the Netherlands Austria game where they were like, oh, Austria this, Austria that, and anytime Netherlands scored, they were about to jump off the bandwagon, like 1 foot out. They're like, see, Netherlands is putting their weight. Austria seems to be like really panicking, and Austria scores again. They're like, oh shit, and they jump back on. Right, Austria for another 10 minutes. Netherlands scores. They're like, here it comes, Austria, blah, blah. But Austria actually looks really good. And they did kick Turkey's ass in a friendly before. And the way things are looking, it's very possible that Turkey is going to match up with them again. Somebody putting this over here, but it does look like England actually, if they sort out their act, they have the easier route going to the final. That right side of that bracket looks a lot easier, John. For those of you guys who follow the tournament half-assed, this kind of puts it into perspective of which team might go all the way. But what do you make of this? Because the left-hand side is kind of rough because all the big boys, you got Spain on that left side, Germany, Portugal, and France, probably the 4 teams that people are putting as top 4 favorites after the first round are on that side.
Well, see, the Dutch team, they didn't perform too well yesterday, but I feel like that's in isolation. Given how England's performances have been throughout this year, I wouldn't say that they're a sure hit over the Dutch team, because I feel like all it takes is 1 goal. Like I feel like that first goal is massive in that game. And whoever scores it, whether it's the Dutch or the English, kind of not to be too conclusive on it, but I feel like whoever scores it probably wins the match, because it doesn't look like England have too much in terms of stability right now, emotionally and structurally for their team. And it's unfortunate because, like I mentioned in one of my comments to our clips, it feels like this England team has the best. At least the collection of talent, which in terms of cohesion, in terms of gelling, and in terms of getting along, this seems like the best possible team. But then in terms of how they're actually structured, again, is a problem. So I don't know. I feel like if they get punched in the mouth, get 1 scored on, or God forbid 2 scored on to them by the Dutch early on, I feel like they're going home. Honestly, that kind of might be me talking because I want the Dutch national team to make it all the way, but then I don't know. It just seems like an absolute shit show over there because I don't know. There hasn't been any positives shown by England. Like maybe Bellingham in the first game, kinda. But then other than
Yeah.
that, I mean, and that's just like kind of a, right? It's kind of like a flash in the pan kind of deal. Like
Yeah, it has not been. I mean, I was talking about this. I thought, like he puts Trent. I don't know now. Not
no, he's
against
not.
Netherlands. I don't put Trent
He's
at
not.
right back against Gakpo because Gakpo knows that he can just run behind them all day long. But I don't know why he did not start at right back against teams like Serbia, Slovenia, and stuff like that, where his really defensive deficiencies would not be at play and he could still, create from back there, but nobody's like making runs and stuff. This system does not really suit Trent for the most part. I just feel like the routes Gordo does make it a bit easier, especially once they get past Netherlands. But at the same time, is this England team a team that will play better against better teams because they might not play as defensive?
Well, they scored 2 goals against
But
a
it was
team.
all against teams that kind of were like, you know what, we're not going to let you score. We're going to keep everything in front of us.
Yeah, but when you got the Golden Boot winner of the German league, you've got Cole Palmer, who had a great, he only saw like 6 minutes for the entire group stage. But you've got a lot of playmakers. You got Phil Foden, who had a really good season for City, and you can't score against Serbia, Denmark, and Slovenia. Like, that is very concerning. And it's probably more on the tactics. And if you've got 3 games, even if this was Southgate's first tournament, I think 3 games in an international stage against those teams, against the caliber that England should be playing at, is a good enough and big enough sample size to assume that's what we're going to see. And if they do go balls out against the Dutch and they do score 1, I fully expect them to do the same thing he did in the tournament, which is just to sit back. And we've already seen the Dutch come back from Poland when they were a goal down, and they're an extremely attacking team. They can play between the lines, and right now England doesn't look like they have any cohesion in the middle of the field, and I think they'll just get torn to shreds. So I don't see them like turning it on, because I saw the Serbia game and I was like, all right, they're feeling each other out. Much of what John says, you come into a tournament and you're kind of pushed quickly through your paces, and you're doing a really quick camp, and you're just getting to know each other and getting back with it. Serbia is a good first game. They got away with 3 points there. It wasn't really exciting to watch. And then you kick it into full gear. Like, these are all professionals. They should be playing. You could put them in any team. They should be able to play after 90 minutes together. And they started with the exact same starting 11 in the second game, and we saw the exact same thing from England. And I don't see how we could see anything different than that against the Dutch.
Yeah, see, it depends. I mean, you would think any team looking at England would say this is the way to play against them. I mean, if you play open, you're probably going to be more likely to get punished. So the kind of the recipe is out there in terms of how to take on that team. I just feel like they have like a really favorable matchups going forward, and that England-Italy game, oh my god! If you can't get sleep, that might be a great game to kind of watch and really get some good solid rests, because they both could not open a defense. If you gave them like 6 hours, it feels like Italy is pretty much the same way. But we're getting to the exciting parts of the tournament over here and hopefully Turkey will be there. It's in this thing because that's like a good best case scenario kind of a deal, but we'll find out later today. As of now, especially looking at that bracket, who's your favorite to win this thing right now? John.
I'll pass it to Gordon first because favorite, I don't know.
You have to pick one. You can't do like the Anand thing. I asked Anand for a favorite. He named like 5 teams. There's only like 16
all right,
left, bro. Like
top of my head, in terms of the team who's probably performed the best in terms of the limited time they've had, it's either going to be Spain or Germany, and I'll slightly lean towards Spain.
Okay, that's where Ryan is going to.
Yeah.
I just feel like whenever we do this in tournaments, I feel like Gordo, You look at the group stages. The team that does great in the group stages usually
Usually does.
like leaves out early because then they kind of like played all their games in the group stages.
What? There's only one team, and it's unfortunately, it's Portugal who can take all 9 points from the group stage at this stage of the tournament. So if you look at all the teams that were supposed to be winners or contenders, really, I'd probably also go Spain. They just look like the most complete team, and they took all 9 points, and Portugal is going to be on that side too. So I really would not be surprised if the semifinal was Spain Portugal.
Ugh, that Portugal team is just gross. I just don't know what other way to say it, but it is just.
It's effective, and you know what? They're fueled by Cristiano Ronaldo, who has that blood hatred that Messi's going to win Copa America and do the Copa World Cup Copa and be the Spain of the early 2000s. And I really think it's a Portuguese team fueled on hatred, and I can only hope that just like age, they'll peter out in the later stages.
Germany and Spain are two favorites. Yeah. I mean, Austria looks so good, man, but I just feel like, it's one of those things where that's a team that's good against that press is going to be just demolishing them somewhere along the line.
I think a surprise, I would not be surprised if the Swiss come out of that bottom group because they've scored more goals than the rest of the three teams. And they've been one of the more exciting teams. I would not be surprised.
This is why I look at this, and in some ways something is this almost looks like staged, right? Like it's gonna be Spain, Germany, Portugal, France on one side and stuff like that, but there's gonna be an upsets here and there. But like I say, this is like the best part of the tournament. I feel like once the group stages are done and you go to the elimination and stuff like that. But Spain looks like the best team when you watch them right now. But I think somebody was talking earlier about France. They just blow too many opportunities. Eventually, just like Nunez, these are going to start going in, and the whole tournament is going to change. the favorites to win it. But until then, keep watching the tournaments, not half-ass like freaking John over here, but really put your whole entire ass into it.
I'll have something to say. I'll have something to say next week when it's just me and Gordon. I promise.
Yes, I hope to God, because otherwise it's gonna be like he's gonna be interviewing Gordon. But yes, these two guys will be back with you Wednesday. Otherwise, the morning show is going to be back July 8th when I'm back in town over there. By then, I might launch this Turkish D Stallion channel or whatever it's going to be called. I haven't determined the name yet, and I've already done the casting. John over here is going to be showing me how to play Elden Ring. So that should be fun by itself, I think. But have a great week, everybody. Tune in tomorrow night. The boys will be on back at their regular time, 7 o'clock Central. If you have not done so already, go grab a freaking friend and have them give us a like. We're almost at 800 over here. So make that push. Nice. Go grab somebody. Just spread the word. Just do a share on your Facebook and say, go watch these bozos. Maybe not this episode. Put a better episode for them to watch. But we'll see you guys. Take care.